everybody, and welcome to June's episode of Stars and Cards for the Homeward Healer. We're here. It's June. Oh my goodness. How you
Yeah,
doing? Let's start with
I'm
how are you?
I'm fine. Yes, I remember just us complaining about how long January was, like 8,000 days, but all of a sudden it's June and I don't know how this happens. Like, what is time? But I'm very excited to talk about this Gemini season because I've never been a big fan of Gemini season in general, but I feel very differently about this Gemini season. I'm kind of loving it, which I would love to hear. Are you to share with everyone how it's different this year? Because it just feels, yeah, there's like a shifting going on, isn't there?
It has like a bit of an edge to it this year, I feel. Bringing facts to the table. It is bringing conversation to the table. This year we have Saturn in Aries right next to Neptune, making a sextile to Gemini. So the sun is receiving that harmonious connection to Saturn. And so it's bringing a little bit more focus on the things that matter, the hard conversations, giving a little bit. That's the edge that I was talking about. And Pluto in Aquarius trines Gemini. So there's that piece. And Mars is in Leo, also giving support to Gemini. So Gemini is getting this sort of massive like planets with big energy for action, for discipline, for I mean Neptune as well for bringing our dreams and our hopes and um, our imagination into something tangible. So this season, Gemini's like, okay, what a powerhouse of support. So wherever Gemini is in your charts for the folks listening, I mean, it's a big one this year. This is about our thoughts, our ideas, our perspective, our mindset, our connection to other people. The majority of June is really a conversation starter on the things we don't want to talk about, the things we're avoiding, the things that we're scared to talk about. And literally, Gemini is getting that green light to just say that thing.
Mhm. Yeah, it's funny. I just was writing about that. Like, this is the time to say things that out loud, the things that you have been holding in or whatever. And I think there's a huge play and exploration around concepts of shame for us, our shame things in this one. Gemini season in terms of tarot cards, there's a couple, there's lovers is the main one, and then it's connection to Mercury, so magician, which is like literally making like speaking things into existence. It's like, and then but what's really cool is as well as there's the numerology association with the devil, so it's that duality and that's that tension, and like and like how are these two going to work together, the lovers and the devil, you know what I mean? There's like that sort of, you when you talk about astrology and the sort of houses across or the planets across from each other kind of pulling, and actually there's some real potential there for change to happen. There's like that play, I feel like, in this season as well,
Yeah.
which is really cool. And the duality, like letting multiple truths be exist at the same time, releasing cycles of shame is huge for this season, because I think shame is so insidious, and I think it's the root cause of so many of our problems.
Mhm.
The way that people try and overcompensate instead of dealing with those issues, we're seeing it, especially the harmful systems at play. Like, it's just, there's so much, and I think it's such a cool, I'm actually learning this. I've really come to appreciate Gemini season in a totally different way, um,
Yeah.
mostly because working with you but seeing it for what it could be, like the potential of this. And it's mostly an air element one, so like you said, all the communications, our thought processes, our beliefs, our ways of sharing, our all that kind of stuff, um like rewriting our narratives, like questioning the stories in our head that we hold that other people gifted us. Um, but there's a real element of earth as well with the devil, the Capricorn, and then even the magician, that's an heir to earth. So there's like that action, like taking, like
Yeah.
letting your thoughts change your behaviors, letting your thoughts drive you towards like new thoughts, new beliefs, or ones that are more aligned, I should say, to action. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, because I think there's that whole piece about like exploration and curiosity and debating for the sake of debating, which is very Gemini. It's like, well, I'm going to take the other side if you're going to take this side because okay, yeah,
Yeah.
you're showing too much emotion here. I need to get to the what you're not being logical. Let's have a debate. And I think what happens here is like this month is really about like how do we not get carried away by the curiosity or by the debate or by the both sidesing and all sidesing and everything. How do we not
Being
get
a
carried
devil's
away with
advocate, but playing devil's advocate.
the devil's advocate is so Gemini, you know? And where does Gemini then have to buckle down? And,
Yeah.
that's where Saturn comes in. And Saturn says, and Aries says, listen, we got work to do. We have important things we need to get done, whether it's in our personal life or collective work or whatever. Can we just buckle down here? Like we don't need to, yes, let's go down the rabbit holes to some extent. Let's have the debates, but like where do you stand? Where do you stand on this issue? Where do you stand in
Mhm.
your life on this thing? We can't be wishy-washy. And I feel like the last bunch of months have been so friggin' like stretchy,
Yeah.
foggy, unclear. We've had so much lack of clarity. And I will even go back as far as 2020 when all of this began. And I feel like cycles are ending big time. I mean, is that also the devil card, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah. Yeah. It pushes you towards a reclamation of something different for yourself. A lot of people who it's a real card that people who will use when they face things like substance abuse and things like that. It's like that, addictions. It's that sort of things around where we're, of all kinds, where our obsessions are, where our like how we let ourselves down, or where these kind of when we fall, like our steps falter when we're trying to make good choices. It's all that
Mhm.
kind of stuff as well on a personal level. And I think, yeah,
Right.
it's that instant, and then like shame, fear that manifests itself into such
Yeah.
it can manifest itself into such things. So it's that healing of those, and you can't help but then that's cycle breaking, right? That's massive
Love
cycle
it.
break.
Well, I mean, in that regard, it's like we are having massive cycles ending and new ones beginning, just
Mhm.
simply by the astrology, because starting with first of all with Neptune entering Aries this year after 14 years, and Saturn having recently entered there too, and then this month we have Jupiter entering Cancer after a year of being in Gemini, so there's a lot of sort of ending of like transit cycles, but some of them longer, like Uranus in July will end its 7-year one. Pluto ended its 14-year one, entering a 20-year one. So this year really represents as the ending of things and the beginning of things. But this particular month of June, especially while the sun is in Gemini, Mercury is in Gemini. Um, we are, yeah, we're kind of starting to feel a little bit more clear on like the vision is kind of clearing a bit. It's like we were amidst the shift and now the shifts are happening and we're now like,
Damn it.
it's like we're here. We've been waiting for this. We've been
Yeah.
waiting for this. So, I think by the solstice, when the 20th happens in June, and that's like less than a week before that new moon in Cancer, I really think that we there is some sort of more clarity than there was before on what has had is needs to end, what is beginning for us, and we are coming to terms. We're having the hard conversations in this part of June, the beginning part of it, at least until that full moon in Sagittarius on the 11th, where we will have some revelations about our quest.
Mhm.
Sagittarius, where are we shooting the arrow? Where is it landing? Where are we going? Do we
Yeah.
care where it lands? Is it about pointing to the thing? Like we're going to just have a little bit more structure to what we're setting out to do, and so it's exciting in that way. I think this month is exciting in that way, and amidst the devastations of the world, we're also going to find our meaning in terms of how. we're going to tackle those things and show up for those things
Yeah.
in meaningful ways again, right? This month also brings clarity, that sense of hopelessness, a sense of despair that we were a little bit, um, I think, like stuck in, like quicksand, almost like sinking us under. This June is like a lifeline to pull us out and
Yeah.
say, nobody's saying these awful, horrifying things are not happening. Multiple things, the poly crisis. What are
Hmm.
you going to do? What are you going to do? Because you
Hmm.
can't sink in the quicksand. So it's hopeful in that our energies are shifting. They're shifting personally, which is also spilling out into how that's going to translate collectively. That is that's what my reading is of June, and that's why I find it this solstice a very pivotal moment in the year.
Yeah. I can feel that too. And one of the other support cards is the Knight of Swords, which is double air.
Mm,
Um, and so it's like that all systems go encourager for us to suspend our current beliefs in particular about what we think we're capable of. So
mm,
it's like, Knight of Swords, the air, it's like quick, fast intensity movement in particular, because knights are usually involved with our movement, how we're
right,
going at a certain time,
right.
and what we're being asked to do. And it's like that, like we are more capable than we think, we are. And I think that a lot of people are wakening up to this, especially when it comes to things like, speaking out, this, the fight for justice and making things more right is like a lifetime. We're
Yeah,
not, we're talking like this is long-term lifetime. It's our turn now, and we're going to hand it over to our kids' generation. It's going to be their turn. Not to say that lots won't change. I think lots will change, and I think but it's a reminder that we have a lot of impact. Excuse me, more than we think, even on a
yeah,
personal levels. When you're talking about those interpersonal connections and relationships and conversations we're having with each other, and maybe saying something out loud that we have felt so that we have been made to feel ashamed to say out loud. And I'm going to say in particular with things to do with like
yeah,
Palestine,
for sure.
the head fuck that it's been to watch our government, our media, gaslight all of us into thinking that somehow this is more complicated than it is. Like so many people now are realizing we just need to say the thing, say what you know is right inside and say it out loud, because more of us are now saying it. And there's like, you can feel there's, maybe I don't know if you
This-
can, there's a
Oh yeah,
shifting, right? There's a
100%,
shifting. People are calling
100%.
it out. People aren't, like, we're now seeing like the bullshit lines and the phrases that are used, and the that they don't have the same
Yeah,
scary meaning anymore. Do you know what I mean?
100%. I
Yeah.
think that's the thing, like, is to say the thing, it can be scary also because not just because of the backlash or also because of the overwhelm of information too. But this month it will be very much information overload. It will be, if you were talking politically, there will be probably an intensification of distractions, propaganda, distractions, all types of things about all types of things. I mean, right now, there's multiple things that are going on. There's like, while the focus is on this horrific genocide in Gaza, there's definitely like all this
Yeah.
awful stuff happening in our own countries around like decisions that leaders are making in the mix. Like, I mean, the US, we don't live there, but I mean, I'm sure in your own backyard and in mine in Canada, it's like, oh, did they just do that? Wait, can they
Uh-huh.
do that? Did we?
Definitely the same here, especially in Scotland. We can feel it too. Or that, yes. And it's
Oh,
just that, yeah, that sort of permission giving that has been given by, the states in particular, government, to other right wing sort of
yeah,
um people. And that's where I think our power lies, is not is like, if you want to talk about like using shame for good, you direct it outwards. You direct it on the people where there's, who are inciting
yeah,
violence and
and
hatred,
hate.
where there's no place for that in our society that we want to live in. that's where this you can take that shame. If
Yeah.
we can do anything, if you need an outward source of why you should be working to heal any kind of shame stuff, it's so that you can direct it where it belongs, and that's on the people who
Yeah.
are trying to make or incite this sort of hatred and racism and
Yeah.
everything else. I'm approaching 50. Like, I really don't have very many fucks left to give. Like, I really don't. And
Me too,
I gave a lot of fucks growing up. Like, I
right? Approaching
gave a
50 is
lot.
so beautiful in that way. It's like, oh my goodness, really
Yeah.
done with them. None left, none in my
Premenopausal.
pockets to give. Just
Yeah.
like,
Postmenopausal women
um,
are fucking done. Like, we're done.
but let's be real though. Let's be real. It is still, there are sadly for me, there are still slight fucks that I give because, again,
No.
speaking of
Yes.
shame, speaking of
Yes.
fear, speaking of the shadows. So I'll tell you what, um, that's why this Gemini season for me is like, the hard part of this month is really, and I had a download about it today and I tried to make a video, but of course, when you're in download mode, you're like, why is this not coming out properly and I can't express myself? So maybe I can do it here. For me, it feels like the message was you can do the march, the protest, the letter writing, the big sort of grand gesture things, but are
Mhm.
you willing to talk to that mom on the playground? Are
Yeah.
you willing to have that conversation with the family member that just said that really fucked up thing about immigrants? Are you going to have that, like, you know what I mean? Because the download that came to me was the way the status quo works and stays is because of everyday people that are people we know. They don't
Yeah.
just magically become systems. They become systems because somebody decides they're in agreement with what is being said that is harmful. I do think this month also holds a lot of that chaos where, I mean, not everybody's moving towards self actualization and betterment and healing and all that, right? I mean,
I know.
so they're
My
going to
friend
get
and I laugh about that all the time. We're like, do you know there's people out there, like a lot, that don't think about being better as a person or like
no,
healing, or they
no.
just go about their day, and I'm like, how nice.
They're literally like, yeah. And then when you have conversations with them, you see where the root of a lot of that shit comes from because
Yeah.
no judgment, but maybe a little bit. But I think about how a lot of countries that experience system collapse and new regimes that were authoritarian, including my own homeland, it entailed people that supported it. It entailed people ratting out their own family members. Like it
Yeah.
entailed people policing each other. So,
Under like a false sense of safety, right? It's like that false sense of if I do that, I'll be safe. Like, it gets to the point
totally,
where yeah. And we
totally. I mean,
realize,
I don't know what the psychology for that is. I mean,
yeah,
it's to call the authorities on someone you love,
yeah,
because you've drank that, bought that narrative or whatever the hell it is. I mean, I really don't know what the psychology for that is, but we're kind of in those times here now. This is things that you were like, oh, that happens in like, that's a Middle East thing. That's a South American
yeah.
thing. That's an
Oh,
African thing.
China, this, that, yeah, yeah.
But we're here, guys. And
I
here's
know.
the thing. It's like, that's why this Gemini season for me is so hard because it's like, listen, go to your protests, but are you
Mhm.
interrupting certain discourses on that playground? Are you
Yeah.
interrupting, by interrupting I mean just like adding the other Gemini's like, what about that other part? What about this
Gonna
piece?
say, yeah, the duality of it or multiplicity
The
of it. Like,
multitudes, right?
yeah, yeah,
Because
yeah.
Gemini isn't even it's not duality, in fact. It's about multitudes. It's about more than it's non-binary. That's what Gemini
Yes. I love the idea too of Gemini season being like the nuance of the season and allowing yourself to consider nuances. Like, I know I was big talking, like, put shame on people where, but I meant
Oh yeah.
and by shaming, I mean, it can be something like excluding. It could
Oh,
be something like moving your money and somewhere else, buying from another store. It could be quiet but powerful. I'm not talking
absolutely.
like in your face.
Yeah.
And I think
But
we
that's
need to
good too.
know
But that's good
that's good
too.
too. I was going to say we need to know the difference
Yeah.
when we are harsh with certain systems and people, and then when we need to be gentle, and when we can and everything in between. When can
Yeah,
we
for
have a
sure.
quiet convo, or just
For
like
sure.
silently
For
pulling
sure.
away from something, or knowing that this is a good person and actually they're willing to
Yeah.
have a
Yeah.
conversation and hear your
100%.
side, or who's not safe and actually I'm just going to move so far away and not be involved in that at all. You know what I mean? Like
Exactly.
we have to be able to be
Yes.
yeah, critical about our thinking in terms of how we're engaging with people. And
And
I do think there's room for that, you know,
for
for us
sure.
to be more mindful.
And then whose bodies are on the line with the things they say,
Yeah.
like who has more privilege to
Yes.
speak, who doesn't, right? So, I mean, I think there's that piece where it's not about shaming people into like never saying the truth of what's on their mind because I would rather know what you think, but it's
Yes.
about not dropping that convo, not letting it go without having it be had. Like your voice matters, your actions matter, but where do you stand? Where do you stand
Mhm.
on anything really, not just in your
Mhm.
personal life? You know, you and I
Yeah.
talk about that a lot. Sorry to go on a big rant about that, but
No, and I
like,
was going to say, like, to be fair, how you stand on environmental issues typically will tell you how you stand on everything else. How you stand on Palestine will tell
for
me
sure,
kind of
for
how you
sure.
stand. Do you know what I mean? Like, they're all connected, and we
It's
can
all
see
connected anyway. Yes, it
connections.
is.
So we kind of get it. And I
Yeah.
think one of the things I'll say is we need to be careful too who we're calling out in terms of like, are we saving our like frustrations for people who are actually on the same side of us, but they're not
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
saying and doing exactly
Yeah.
the right thing. Like we know that the left loves to eat itself, unfortunately, eat itself. But you know, it's that mindfulness as well, like that we need the more the merrier.
Yeah.
And
100%.
we cannot we can't do the whataboutism. We cannot expect everybody to talk and be an activist for every single thing out there. But I'm pretty like we need all of us doing something, you know, who are saying something. And you know, I wrote there's a blog post on my blog about some ideas for people if you're struggling like us who are moms, neurodiverse, chronically ill, you know, whatever else is going on, and you don't have the capacity to do. I think sometimes we think it's all or nothing. Like we have to be out chanting and
True.
doing that the whole time or right. But there's a million things we can do in our lives. And so I did collate some ideas for people who are like us, who like you just need like direction. And there's a million things we can do. Pick something, anything, and go for it. I completely know the feeling of being overwhelmed by how much feels like it needs to be done and what needs to be changed, and like it feels like a lot, but all that does is overwhelm us. And
Yeah.
then we're no use to anybody, and you know, we're no use to ourselves and our families and our communities. So I think,
100%.
yeah, like I know people that are listening to this are kind of on the same track, anyways, and
Sure.
the highly sensitives and everything else. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? We just need,
Yeah.
but there's a role for everybody, and I think just that reminder that there's a role for everybody.
It's so true, and I think the connectivity of of Gemini to connect and have conversations literally like, "How do I do this?" or
Yeah.
"What have you been doing?" or "Can I" it really, really does nudge us into leaning on each other in some ways
Mhm.
and reminding us that it's about connection. It's about connecting with others, um,
Mhm.
collaborating with others in our own personal life, and or what we do out there, whether it's work, our passion projects, our parenting, whatever it is. Like we just this month is a reminder we can't do it solo, and Cancer season expands on that really, and it's just this idea that we are a wider community. We're a wider community of care without that piece, then what? Like what is there? Cancer is that collective memory, it's the collective soul in so many ways of the zodiac. So this idea of like um you know how have we been doing this for thousands and thousands of years as humanity? Like we've done
Mhm.
it collectively, we've done it together, we haven't done it alone. And so um just to zoom out and get a little philosophical here, but that's the thing, that's what this month is like. Come out of your shells, people, and go talk to people and go connect with people. And we've become so isolated behind these screens, thinking we're really literally connecting, and we're not really connecting. We're not. We've forgotten how to have conversations with each other.
Mhm.
we're having one-way conversations because that's the nature of social media, and we've all just it's like we've gotten into this little pattern, and I think this month can shatter that a little.
No, for sure. And I think that if you want like something practical to engage with, then the magician aspect of this
Mm,
season in tarot would be a really lovely one to engage with, in that it is all about how you set yourself up best to connect
mm,
with your intuition, the way that you're inspired, how you get downloads, how you gather information, how you're creative, how your creativity flows. It's that
yeah,
like ether to
yeah,
earth sort of connection. And so, how do we allow ourselves to connect to that? So, I always think of the magician as not so much about the being on the card, but more about the tools.
yeah,
And it's like I was saying in my blog post about this tarot council as well. It's like the witch's apothecary, it's the healer's garden, it's the
mm,
writer's desk. It's like how it's your tools and how can you set yourself up. It's like caretaking and tending to
yeah,
our intuitive languages. It's caretaking and tending to our creative channels. And I think that that's where a piece for us will be really supportive in this month,
yeah,
in particular, especially if you then lean towards the more healing aspects of them when you move into Cancer, because there's a huge amount of opportunity for healing deep dives in the
yeah,
next
yeah.
place as well, because we've got Chariot, High Priestess, Queen of
Ooh.
Cups, and Star.
Oh man, Cancer comes through without those
Oh, Cancer's
cards.
just like kicks the door in with like, we are healing now. Restoration, reparations, like, retreat, healing retreat, all of gorgeous, gorgeous
Oh,
energy.
I love
I
that.
just feel a lot more at home with. Um, but I think that this is a good setup month for that.
Yeah,
Like,
for
what
sure.
are our tools? What are our tools for this? How are we going to
Yeah,
engage? Um, and if that means even things like, if we're talking about communication stuff, it's like journaling, like free writing, like get the shit out of your head and onto paper if you can, if that works for you. Writing, like art,
yeah,
um,
yeah.
voice notes.
I have a client who dances and like it's just been such a source of like I can see what a blessing it's been in their life to just all the things that they're going through, which has been so hard, and they just commit to going to this and dancing. They do flamenco and it's like, oh my goodness, like just
Oh,
stomping
that's
it
amazing.
out, tapping it out, sweating it out, like um
Because dance is an intuitive language,
100%.
movement's intuitive language, astrology is,
Yeah,
tarot reading is,
yeah,
tea leaves. Like,
yeah,
there's a million ways our intuition comes through us. We just have to
yeah.
find our sources, and our ways of doing it. Writing, all that stuff is. So yeah, that's a really beautiful one. Flamenco in particular. It's
I
just
know,
something
just like
so good about
really
it.
reconnect,
Mhm.
talk about reconnecting with your power, like it is really powerful. And then there's also something very powerful about like belly dancing or like more sort of like the hip focused sacral chakra area dances, which is like that's a whole other scary one to me. It's like I'd rather stomp than like release what's kind of pent up there because it's like
Yeah. Oh,
it's
I
that's a whole
totally.
other level of vulnerability and openness and movement is so so important. I mean, if one has the ability to do so, um,
Yeah.
it's crucial also in this month for sure. Both months actually, sorry, both seasons. Sorry, so for June, so with Gemini and Cancer, emotions and headiness, and so it's this idea of like getting into the body. And I think last month was great in terms of the tethers, when we were talking about that bigger part of the Taurus season. And so hopefully folks had a chance to kind of get into the groove and it's okay if they didn't. But we were talking about that last time about like just tethering into something to hold
Yeah.
it steady, which would have been nice to have amidst this sort of lot of the flow, the faster, quicker flow. You said time is moving faster. It's going to continue this way. It feels we're out of the
Yeah,
stretching
this month
zone,
in
right?
particular, I think, yeah, this season will be quick. It'll feel like
Absolutely.
quick. Like, yeah.
Absolutely. I think June's gonna go by real fast.
Yeah.
and as did May. And I knew what I called it. I was like, we're moving from the stretchy time, and it's almost like the elastic snaps, and it's we're
Ding.
going forward. But but it's time. It's time, whether we like it or not. We've been kind of stagnating, and we've been stuck in patterns and cycles, and it's time to move forward. As you said, people are saying the things they weren't saying before, and doing the things that they weren't doing before. And I think it's in the baby steps. It's in the little things we do as well, right? It's like that one time you do interrupt a discourse that's fucked up, or you do decide that you are going to go and move your body if you can, instead of
Mhm.
like sitting on your phone. Like all those little things that we do, they trickle right into a bigger change. And so this month, I really wish that for everybody to be able to um utilize this momentum, and
Yeah.
really like, and with the clarity that we're moving towards, is really to just like say the thing and do the thing. I just feel like those are the things I keep saying about June. Say the
Mhm.
thing and do the thing.
Do
Like
the
don't
thing.
let it fester. Don't let it stay
Yeah.
stagnant. Like
Yes.
move it,
Yes.
you
Oh, I
know?
love that. Like use your like yeah, like speak it and then let that be a spell. You know what I mean? Like our
Yeah,
words, spells are spoken out loud for a reason. If we're gonna and we can say anything and with enough intention and belief behind it and connectedness to it, it can be powerful, whether it's even
yeah,
just saying it to ourselves. And one thing I would also encourage everyone, if at the bare minimum, is just notice the narratives in your head. What's being said, how does your mind or brain react to certain things when you go to say something out loud? What is it telling you? Where do you feel it in your body? Whose voice is it in? You know what I mean? It's usually not our voices who are saying those shitty things or telling us we can't or whatever. I think just a little narrative observation might be quite helpful if that's the very minimum.
yeah,
What are you going to say? And then it's like you stop yourself. What is it? And what is that that's stopping you and why?
yeah,
Sometimes it's because it's not our intuition, our bodies are saying not yet, not yet.
yeah,
And that's fair. We don't want to ever dismiss that. But I think more often than not, it is societal, familial
yeah,
bonds that are pulling us back. And so I think that's something that could be a really powerful
yeah,
exercise observation for us if we're not quite ready to full chest it.
yeah. Agreed.
Mhm.
I think that's a great place you know,
To
end this
end it.
episode. Yeah, I love that so much. Thank you.
Yeah.
For more, I know folks can connect with our spaces on our websites, and for me on Patreon.
Mhm.
We do more. I do at least more in-depth astrology reports on there. I have a calendar on there for those that don't know. And I get more into the details of the month, the energies available, and my one-to-ones monthly do that. I get into the
They
nitty-gritty
really
of
do.
how, yeah,
Yeah.
because we're all impacted uniquely, right? Me and Jenny are talking, we're talking more collectively, but
Yeah.
everyone is impacted in a unique way. So, and I know that, you do the same on in your spaces, right? So,
Yeah, for sure. So we would welcome you there.
yes, yes,
Have
for
a
more.
look.
For more
Yes.
on June, but we're wishing everybody more clarity, more connectivity, while tethering into the things that matter, that are close to your heart and keep you rooted. Um, whether it be the divine, whether it be putting your feet in soil, into earth, and rooting yourself that way, whatever it is, we wish you well. Bye,
Mhm.
everybody.
Bye.